Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to speak with you. I was able to dig into this season. I've been a fan of this show since season one, watching it with my wife. It's a very, very cute show. And there's a lot of big differences and changes that happen throughout this season, especially as we get into the later episodes. So walking into this season, I was wondering what most excited you, or what were you most excited to film throughout this season that was different than what we've seen before?
I mean, just every season is a little bit different. You know, season one set up what Lakeview was, and this virtual reality world, and you know, setting up this kind of mystery, and you know what was happening to Nathan, and what had happened to him, how, you know, who killed him. And then season two, you know, kind of opens up the world a little bit more with that and the conspiracy, and then, you know, and everything that came with that. And now we're in season three. I think what really excited me was, oh, okay, so now Nathan has left, and there's a backup Nathan that's being created. And, you know, so suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, this is interesting, like that we're going to have two Nathans. And I got to direct the episode where they meet face to face. So that was, I mean, obviously that's really exciting. And to do a lot of, I mean, I think the show has grown. The visual effects in each season has grown. And certainly this season, this episode 305, where they come into, they meet each other, and in Lakeview is, I mean, it's just packed with visual effects, just packed, you know. And yeah.
I think this show's like hands down one of the funniest shows on TV, especially that episode where the two Nathans meet.
Yeah.
Were there any particular scenes that, you know, I mean, like, I can't even not giggle just thinking of some of this stuff, like AI guy.
Yeah.
Were there any scenes or moments, or any behind the scenes moments that you can share about filming? Maybe, you know, if there were any difficult moments, or if there were just moments where people just kept getting the giggles or anything like that?
I mean, I don't know if it's so much people getting the giggles when we shoot upload, because it is, because the visual effects are so, you know, it's so demanding. So a lot of things, there's not a ton of breaking, but obviously there's scenes where the actors just interact with each other, and they're you know, they're cracking up. You know, AI guy Owen Daniels is always hysterical. Kevin Bigley, super funny. Zainab, I mean, everybody, there's just, but it's, you know, we're working, everybody's pretty professional, and, you know, we're trying to get through a lot of material, and a lot of times a lot of complicated material. Hard in my episode for Robbie to break, because he's acting with himself. So it's like, you know, we're shooting two different passes. So a lot of times he's acting with nobody. And then, you know, and you know, we shoot one pass with him, and then shoot another pass with him as the other Nathan. But overall, though, everybody, it's a really fun environment. And even with all the pressure of shooting, and the stress and the complications, you know, the complicated nature of the show, we're all there. Everybody's having a good time, where everybody's really happy to be there, and we all want to make the best show. We know it's hard, you know. I mean, there are things like, I'm generally, I edit. I wake up later in the day. I edit. I work later at night. When you're directing, you're up early in the morning, and the same thing, you know, that's a demanding thing. To me, that's a demanding thing. Having the cast, like, they're up super early, and the crew is up super early, but everybody's attitude on the show, from, you know, from production assistant to producer, is like, we just all want to make the best show we can. And I think we're really proud of this season, very excited. And it takes a long time, you know, from writing to shooting to finishing all the visual effects, and then getting it on the air.
Now, when I watched this show, I noticed that the show does it in a funny way. It jokes about things, but it really is touching on very, very serious subject matter. Death, mortality, the idea of the afterlife, AI, and more. What do you think, in your opinion, is the biggest, or what are you hoping audiences take away from this show when they're watching these serious subject matters being discussed, but, you know, kind of in a whimsical way? Like, what do you hope audiences walk away with?
I feel it, again, that's a pretty deep question. I feel like, the one thing, look, we want audiences to take from the show is to just be entertained, to enjoy it, to laugh, to get hooked into the storylines, to care about the characters, the mysteries. That's the main thing. But obviously there's, the underlying themes of death, immortality, technology. Those are things we just want people to kind of, we just want them to think about it. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, that's really it. To question, oh, would I do that if I had the choice? If I had a choice of uploading into a virtual reality, would I do that? And obviously there are pros and cons to it. To being in this environment, and what's that like to live forever? In a sense. So those are really the questions to ask. That for people to ask themselves. And I think also there's just there's an element of the technology that, that it's some of it is really good and some of it is not so good. We talk about, things from like food, from no unsanctioned, clean, everything's got to be, had this artificial component to it, and that's something to be aware of. And the environment, protecting the environment. There's all these kinds of themes that come into the show. So it just makes you think.
Now, in this season, or in just your episodes, do you have like maybe a favorite scene or a favorite moment throughout the season or your episodes that you directed?
I have a few favorite scenes, throughout this season. There's some really great things. One of my favorites was in my episode when the two Nathans meet for the first time, and seeing them, interact and come together, and just kind of the choreography and the camera move, and seeing the chemistry that Nathan and Nathan Backup have, and how they first. They're kind of circling each other. They don't trust each other, and they're studying each other, and then they start to warm up to each other, and then they're playing, and they're almost like brothers, and they enjoy each other, and then you see where it goes after that, and their relationship. So it's but that was really fun and just really enjoyable to shoot and to see. I also liked, in my episode, I have a scene with Nora entering into Lakeview, and I wanted to do something different. A lot of times, we have a character where we either see them in the real world, they put the goggles on, and we see them materialize into Lakeview. And I was like, I wanted to do something where she puts the goggles on and the world changes around her and the goggles disappear. And so I wanted to shoot it in a way and match up the sizes of Nora in the real world and Nora in Lakeview in virtual reality. And so shooting that and seeing it how it came together was really exciting, and showing it to Greg Daniels and even showing it to the cast members. They were like, oh, that's cool. And I think bringing these kinds of new things to the show is really fun.
Now, you mentioned that your career trajectory has gone from editing to directing, and I'm assuming you're gonna continue to grow. Who's the unsung hero of your career? Like, who do you think is maybe the person that has helped you grow as an artist, as an editor, as a director, that probably deserves some more attention?
Oh, that's a good question. Who's I've had a lot of people mentor me. I've been fortunate. I started in the business, almost 30 years ago. I came to LA. I was a production assistant, and I kind of fell into post. It was something that I enjoyed in college, editing. And so I was apprentice editing, and then assistant editing, and cutting trailers. And then I got onto Seinfeld as an assistant editor. That was my first, TV editing gig. And, I worked on that show and a show called The Single Guy. Also, they're both Castle Rock shows. That one had Jonathan Silverman was the star. And the editors, Skip Collector was editing Seinfeld, and Noel Rogers, no relation, but he was editing the Single Guy. And I just learned a ton from them. It was my first time, working in television. And then I got to, watch Andy Ackerman direct and, on Seinfeld. And I went to another show later with him called Andy Richter Controls the Universe. And it was single camera. And seeing him go from multi-camera to single camera and I just learned a ton. And then eventually, ending up at the Office, working with Greg Daniels and watching, Ken Kwapis and other directors, Paul Feig, watching what they do. And it's like, okay, I seeing the dailies, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to direct. I think Greg Daniels has been a champion for me. I mean, I've just learned so much from him in story and just pacing and just in part of the decision-making process. And not to say we agree on things all the time. We will disagree. And the same thing, when The Office ended, I went to the Mindy Project and I worked with Mindy, and same thing. There are things with Mindy where we agree on things, we have a shorthand, and other times we'll disagree and we make our cases and stuff like that. And, I think those are people that really have, given me opportunities to shine. And I think I've shown them what I can do. And that's why there's a trust and why they keep hiring me. And a show like Upload, for me and Greg, is a completely different thing than what we've done in the past. I mean, even though Greg's background was from animation originally, and then going into, single camera, The Office, Parks and Rec, but coming to Upload and also Space Force, where suddenly we're dealing with special effects and visual effects, there's a learning curve. And, we're not set up like a typical, a show, when you have a show like a Star Trek show or a superhero show, where it's set up a certain way, like the visual effects. We came into it as a comedy, and we're, building the special effects around that. And it's an interesting process, and how, Greg is very precise with what he wants. A lot of times, he will talk directly to visual effects artists and, converse and to make it clear what he doesn't want to play telephone. He doesn't want to go through a bunch of different people, from what his intent is and what his idea is to something else. And at the same time, Greg sometimes will pitch something and an artist will give something different and he'll like that better. So it's, I don't, anyway, I'm just saying it's a different world for us dealing with visual effects and what it entails.
Well, you've worked on, like you mentioned, a lot of different shows. What are you most looking forward to working on next, or what genre would you like to tackle next?
I see your comic books up there. I'm a big comic book fan. I think you can see some of my Superman stuff behind me here.
Yeah.
I have a closet. I have a closet full of comic books. I'm a big listen. I would love to work on Star Trek, things. The Star Wars universe. Mandalorian's a great show. The Marvel. I'd love to jump into a Marvel series. I've done listen. I love comedies. I'm not. These are things that I love as well. Like, that got me interested in the business, where it's like the superhero genre and sci-fi. And so I'd love to, getting to work on Upload, like I said, has been a dream come true, because it's like, oh, finally I'm getting to use these toys. And, we're shooting, I had some scenes where I was in a complete green screen environment. And, I felt like I was on, the set of the Avengers shooting Infinity War. So it, I would love to, jump to something like that and try, just try cutting, directing on a Star Trek series or a Star Wars or a Marvel series.
Now, we've heard rumors of a reboot for The Office. We've heard rumors of a reboot or return of Seinfeld. Are you involved in any of these shows?
I'll if Greg has anything, if Greg does anything with The Office, I'm sure I'll get a call very early on. So that's what happens with Upload. I got the call for Upload, and he's like, oh, I got something else too. And it was Space Force. So it was, when he's ready to share, I'm one of the, early calls to make sure, hey, you available? with Seinfeld, I'm excited. I saw the clips, and then I emailed my fellow crew members that, because after Seinfeld, I went back and I was doing the DVDs, all the extras. So all the bloopers and all of the, inside looks, and we did these documentaries. And then it's funny, I was editing, we had the documentaries. I was going to go do the Office pilot. Not the pilot. I was going to go, I was working on the Seinfeld DVDs, and I was finishing up. I was doing the first like 3 or 4 seasons, and then I was going to go do the Office. I had seen the Office pilot, and I got hired to do the series. And then Jerry and Larry David watched the documentary we did for the Seinfeld DVD, kind of like how the show began. Mm-hmm. And then Jerry was like, well, this needs to be on TV. And so then we made the Seinfeld story, the special. And I remember Greg Daniels would be like, hey, when are you coming to here? When are you showing up to edit? And I'm like, I'm working with Jerry Seinfeld. I'll call you back. I got to see when he's out of town, and I'll go, So there was overlap that I wasn't expecting, because I thought I'd be done with the DVDs, and suddenly this other show came in. So it was just kind of funny. But I'd love to, be involved with anything Seinfeld. I don't know what he's got cooking. I saw Julia Louis-Dreyfus literally was like, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. So I don't think they know yet. Nobody really knows. Jerry and Larry have it close to the chest, but obviously I love those guys, and I love, still great friends with the crew, people that I worked with. We still get together, Susie Greenberg, Morgan Sackett, and I still chat with other Seinfeld graduates, so to speak.
Well, I know your time is very valuable. I'm going to wrap it up with one last question.
Mm-hmm.
Going throughout your career, all of the projects you've worked on, bringing it back home to upload, directing a few episodes, how has working on this show changed you as an actor? I'm sorry, a director, an artist, or as a person, if at all?
I mean, working on upload has definitely made me grow as a director, because you're just dealing with a whole new set of tools and that's just the visual effects. I mean, when you have a scene of 2 people talking, it doesn't matter if it's, a comedy, The Office, or if it's Upload, or if it's Parks and Rec, or, the Mindy Project, whatever. But when you suddenly have like, a whole digital environment and people reacting to something that's not there, I mean, a lot of this, like, I understand visual effects. I've seen enough, I've seen enough of it just in watching behind the scenes, movies, just, featurettes and things like that. But also as an editor, you get a sense, when we deal with like even visual effects on a small scale, like on the Mindy Project, you do things like a set extension. Okay, we're shooting on a New York street, but the street ends and then you see Universal Studios. So you have visual effects where, someone does just a street extension, or you're painting out, things in the sky, or, like, okay, we can only go up this high, because then you start seeing the scaffolding and things like that. So we'll add the buildings up. And if the camera's moving, it becomes about tracking and things like that. But, excuse me, on this scale, on the scale of a show like Upload, I mean, every shot has a visual effect, like almost every shot. It's crazy, because you always have to, whether something is being comped in a monitor, or people are talking on the phone. I mean, even just shooting a hand phone scene, it's like there's so much coverage that you have to because you want to shoot the person's face, you want to shoot over their shoulder onto their hand, then you need the revert, you need just the shot of the phone angle. I mean, it's just, and then the reverse of that person, there's just it's a lot more coverage. There's a lot, but I feel like with anything, the more you direct, kind of the less anxiety you have about it, and the more you can kind of wrap your head about it and be efficient. And okay, this is how we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do this, and you pitch solutions to things. And even with the amount of time, when you shoot stuff with lots of locations, for example, and you only have a day or 2 to shoot it, one of the tricks is, okay, how can we have these locations, they'll be close to each other? So we're just doing company moves and not, getting people into the trucks and driving somewhere, because you're losing shooting time when you're doing that. So you're just trying to be efficient. It's working with the assistant directors and doing that. And I mean, that's how it is with everything. It's managing the clock, managing the budget, and getting the art. That's always the balance that you're striving for.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for fans to see this season. I can't stop laughing. I'm probably going to watch it again.
Awesome.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. David Rogers, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.